Good morning, students. Today we will discuss about the male reproductive system. Male reproductive system of human beings. The reproductive system consists of primary sex organ and secondary or accessory sex organs or ducts and associated glands. Primary sex organ is testis. The primary sex organ means the organ which produce sperm and hormones are called primary sex organ. The other organs, that is secondary or accessory sex organs, they help in the process of reproduction, but they do not produce any hormones or any gametes. Clear? So the testis is the primary sex organ and the other parts are the secondary or accessory organs. These are ureter testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, urethra and penis. Besides this, some glands are associated with the testis, with the male reproductive system. These are seminal vesicle, prostate gland and Cowper's gland or bulbourethral gland. Cowper's gland or bulbourethral gland. Now see the diagram. Testis, here one pair of testis is found. Testis. Inside the testis, small spaces are found called the ureter testis, or networks are found called the ureter testis. Then ureter testis. Third one is the vasa efferentia. Vasa efferentia. There are 10 to 12 fine ducts are found arises from the ureter testis called the vasa efferentia. Then epididymis. Epididymis, the coiled part. It is the coiled part found on one side of the testis. One side of the testis. Epididymis. Then vas deferens. Vas deferens. Vas deferens originates from the epididymis and enters into the abdominal cavity through the inguinal canal. Enters into the abdominal cavity through the inguinal canal. Then ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct, urethra, the part of urethra found inside the penis. Penis is the sex organs and which the urethra opens outside through the tip of the penis, that is urinogenital meatus. And besides this, three glands are present: seminal vesicle, prostate gland and Cowper's gland. The seminal vesicle, prostate gland and bulbourethral or Cowper's gland. Now we will detail study the testis. Generally, in the embryonic condition, the testis remains inside the abdominal cavity. In embryonic condition, the testis remains inside the abdominal cavity. When the fetus becomes 7 months old, the testis descend down and remains inside the scrotal sac or scrotum. In the embryonic condition, the testis remains inside the abdominal cavity. When the fetus becomes 7 months old, the testis descend down from the abdominal cavity and remains inside the scrotal sac. The scrotal sac is attached with abdominal cavity by a narrow space called the inguinal canal. Now, why the testis descend down? Because for spermatogenesis and storage of sperms, it requires 2 to 3 degrees centigrade less than that of the body temperature. Clear? For spermatogenesis and storage of sperm, the testis requires 2 to 3 degrees centigrade than that of body temperature, so that the testis descend down and remains inside the scrotal sac. Clear? A pair of testes found inside the scrotal sac and it is communicated with the abdominal cavity by spermatic cord. The spermatic cord contains artery. The spermatic cord contains artery, vein means these are the blood vessels. Besides this, lymph vessels present and nerves also present. The spermatic cord also possesses a specialized muscles called the cremaster muscle. Called the cremaster muscles. Clear? The spermatic cord possesses artery, vein or blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, nerves and cremaster muscles. The cremaster muscles shows cremaster reflex. Cremaster reflex. Reflex means ANS. It is under the control of ANS, autonomous nervous system. What are the functions of the cremaster muscles? Generally, the test is found inside the scrotal sac and the test is requires 2 to 3 degrees centigrade less than that of the body temperature for spermatogenesis and storage of the sperm. So, in high temperature, when the environmental temperature becomes high, the cremaster muscles relax and the testes move away from the top abdominal cavity. Clear? In high temperature, the cremaster muscles relax, move away the testes from abdominal cavity so that the testes do not get any temperature from the abdominal cavity. On the other hand, in low temperature of environment, the cremaster muscles contract and move the testes towards the abdominal cavity for gaining temperature from abdominal cavity. Clear? In the low temperature of environment, the cremaster muscles contract and the testes move towards the abdominal cavity for receiving temperature from the body. This up and down movement of the testes by cremaster muscle is called cremaster reflex. It is under the control of ANS, autonomous nervous system. There are some disorders. In few persons, the inguinal canal never closed and the inguinal canal becomes broad so that the testis can enter into the abdominal cavity and can be released out. Can enter into the cavity and can be removed out from that cavity, and such condition is called inguinal hernia. Such condition is called inguinal hernia. In few persons, the testes fail to descend down. The testes fail to descend down means in the adult condition also the testes remains inside the abdominal cavity, and such condition is called cryptorchidism. Such condition is called cryptorchidism, and such persons are sterile and they do not produce any sperms. Such persons are sterile and they do not produce any sperms. Clear? Now we will discuss about the detailed structure of the testis. Detailed structure of the testis. The testis is generally oval in shape, having 4 to 5 cm in length, 2 to 3 cm in width and 2 to 3 cm in thickness. Clear? Length, width and thickness. 4 to 5 cm in length, 2 to 3 in width and 2 to 3 in the thickness. The testis found inside the scrotal sac. The scrotal sac or the scrotal skin is composed of a specialized muscles called the darctus muscle. Specialized muscles called the darctus muscles. Clear? The testis found inside the scrotal sac which is composed of darctus muscles. Generally, the testis is covered by 3 coverings. These are outer tunica vaginalis, middle tunica albuginea and inner tunica vasculosa. Outer tunica vaginalis, there are 2 vaginalis layers are found. These are parietal layer and visceral layer. These are parietal layer and visceral layer. These are the tunica vaginalis. Enclose a cavity called the coelom. Clear? The tunica albuginea is the second layer. The tunica albuginea is the second layer which divides the interior of the testis into a number of compartments or lobules. There are about 250 lobules are found inside the testis. The lobules are formed by the invagination of tunica albuginea, which form a number of septa. The septa divides the interior into around 250 lobules. Inside the lobules, seminiferous tubules are present. Inside the lobules, seminiferous tubules are present. The seminiferous tubules are structural and functional unit of testis. It is responsible for the formation of sperms and also hormones. Below the tunica albuginea, another layer is present called the tunica vasculosa, which is highly vascular. The tunica vasculosa is highly vascular. The tunica albuginea divides the testis into a number of chambers, and the outer layer is the tunica vaginalis. Actually, the tunica vaginalis is found on one side of the testis, not cover the entire testis. It is found on one side of the testis. The whole testis is rest on a pad-like structure called the gubernaculum. The whole testis rest on a pad-like structure called the gubernaculum. Clear? Now we'll discuss about the detailed structure of the seminiferous tubule. Inside the lobule, 2 to 3 seminiferous tubules are found. Inside the lobule, 2 to 3 seminiferous tubules are found. In between the seminiferous tubules, some spaces are present where Leydig cell or interstitial cells are found. Leydig cell or interstitial cells are found. Each seminiferous tubule is elongated structure, coiled structure, whereas the last part of each tubule becomes straight, called the tubuli recti. The seminiferous tubules are generally coiled structure found inside the lobule, whereas the last part of the tubule is straight, called the tubuli recti. A number of tubuli recti are united to form capillaries. That capillaries are called uretratestis. After the formation of sperm, the sperms move from seminiferous tubule to uretratestis through the tubuli recti. From uretratestis, the sperms move into epididymis through a number of ducts called the vasa efferentia. The epididymis is also found on the one tip and one side of the testis. The epididymis is differentiated into 3 parts. The upper part is the caput or head epididymis, and middle part is the corpus or body epididymis, and the lower part is the coda or tail epididymis. The epididymis is a highly coiled structure. It gives motility to the sperm. At the upper part called caput or head epididymis, middle part is corpus or body epididymis, and the lower part is coda or tail epididymis. From epididymis, the vas deferens originates. Which enters into the abdominal cavity through the inguinal canal. Now we'll study the seminiferous tubule. This is the TS of transverse section of seminiferous tubule. Each seminiferous tubule is lined by a larger cell called the Sertoli cell. Larger cells called the Sertoli cells. Clear? Larger cells called Sertoli cells. In between the Sertoli cells, the space present where the germ cells are found. In between the Sertoli cells, space present where the germ cells are found. The germ cells divides repeatedly to form 5 to 6 layers of cells called the spermatogonium. Clear? These germ cells divides to form 5 to 7 layers of cells called the spermatogonium. The spermatogonium undergoes metamorphosis or spermatogenesis to form sperm. The spermatogonium produces sperms. In between the spermatogonium, Sertoli cells are present. the Sertoli cells are connected together by tight junction. Remember this point? The Sertoli cells connected together by tight junction which acts as blood testis barrier. Blood testis barrier means that prevents the entry of some harmful substances into the testis, or the immune system of the body may destroy the sperms, so that the blood testis barrier that protects the sperms from the immune action of the body. The spermatogonium undergoes spermatogenesis process to produce sperms. The sperms after the formation, the head of the sperm, generally the sperm is a tadpole structure. Tadpole structure. Clear? Head and tail. The head of the sperm that embedded in the Sertoli cells, which embed in the Sertoli cells and get the nutrients from the Sertoli cells. Clear? Sertoli cell having a number of function. Sertoli cell having a number of function. The Sertoli cells, otherwise known as nurse cell or subtentacular cell. Sertoli cell, otherwise known as nurse cell, because it provides nutrients to the developing sperms. Because it provides nutrients to the developing sperm, so it is called nurse cell. Nurse cell. When the sperms released from the Sertoli cell, that process is called spermiation. Spermiation means the removal of sperm from the Sertoli cells. Clear? The Sertoli cell produces two substances, that is androgen binding protein and inhibin. Androgen binding protein and inhibin by the stimulus of FSH. The anterior pituitary gland produces FSH hormone which stimulates the Sertoli cell to produce androgen binding protein and inhibin. The function of Sertoli cell is provide nutrients to the developing sperm. Number 1, produce androgen binding protein. The androgen binding protein helps in concentrating the testosterone, the main potent hormone, the main potent male hormone, and the inhibin inhibit the overactivity of the testosterone. That is a negative feedback. Clear? In between the seminiferous tubules, connective tissue present. The connective tissue contains special cells called the Leydig cell or interstitial cell. Produces Leydig cell and interstitial cell. The Leydig cell or interstitial cell produces hormones by the influence of LH of anterior pituitary. Clear? The anterior pituitary produces two hormones. These are FSH, which stimulates the Sertoli cell to produce androgen binding protein and inhibin, and the LH or luteinizing hormone, which stimulates the Leydig cell to produce testosterone. Leydig cell to produce testosterone, the main potent androgen. Clear? The testosterone helps in process of spermatogenesis. The testosterone stimulates the process of spermatogenesis, and also it is responsible for the formation of or appearance of secondary sexual characters. Clear? The Sertoli cell produces androgen binding protein, inhibin, and the Leydig cell or interstitial cell produces testosterone. The testosterone is stimulates for the spermatogenesis, and it is responsible for the appearance of secondary sexual character. On the other hand, androgen binding protein concentrate the testosterone and facilitate the process of the spermatogenesis. Here, both inhibin and testosterone shows the negative feedback control. Negative feedback system. This is all about the structure of testes and the structure of the seminiferous tubules. Next class, we will discuss the rest part of the male reproductive system, that is ureter testis, vas efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, urethra, penis, and associated glands. Thank you.